Hi everyone, a very good evening to all of you. My name is Ashna Sisodia and I am a political science and international relation faculty on Unacademy Plus. Now, before we start with today's session, where we are going to discuss One China policy and Hong Kong crisis, which occurred in 2019, we are going to discuss why you have to choose Unacademy as a platform for your civil services preparation journey. This platform is best because you get the widest choice of educators here. You get the flexibility to change your course. Unlimited views on lectures are provided to you along with dedicated doubt solving sessions. And not only that, you get printed comprehensive notes for your preparation. Live mentorship is provided on the platform along with daily answer writing practice for mains. And there's a very good offer which Unacademy is offering on the celebrations of Republic Day. Now this is valid till 28th of January, where you get 20% extra off on all UPSC civil services exam subscription. So for plus GS, this is the price which we are offering after discount. The current price used to be this, but after this offer, you will have to pay only this much of the price. All you have to do is to avail this offer, use this code. This is my code Ashna Sisodia. If you apply it, you'll get additional discount on your subscription. And new batches, they are starting especially for prelims 2024. If you're planning to write your paper next year, you can go ahead and enroll yourself in this batch, Armen batch. This is supposed to be an this is English batch which starts on 27th of January 2023 this year. Nothing can stop you from chasing your UPSC dream, so you can avail EMI as low as this much. You can avail a loan at no cost EMI. The approval comes in 2 hours. And Unacademy also offers last mile UPSC CSE free interview guidance program. You can get a head start on your interview preparation, where our top bureaucrats, top educators, these are our panelists, top bureaucrats and educators, professors, experts in various fields of general studies are going to conduct these interview sessions. Then Unacademy has newly launched Center for UPSC CSE in Old Rajendra Nagar, where you'll be able to finish comprehensive syllabus coverage in 800 plus hours. You'll get full access to plus courses and tests. Admissions are open. The batch starts from 4th of Feb, Monday to Saturday at 8 a.m. For 2.5 hours, this session will go on. So you can now visit these centers also, or you can enroll online if you want to. There's another course that has been launched. You can strengthen your basics with NCRTs, where you get live classes from top educators. They are going to cover 6 to 12 NCRTs in 120 hours. And 8 weekly tests also part of this to assess your preparation. This batch also starts from 27th of January. And this is the early bird offer, by the way. Please take a note of it. The duration of this batch is 3 months. Now, let us start with One China policy and Hong Kong crisis. Now, first of all, if you look at the map, this is the disputed region Exai-Chin. I'm referring to this. Please remember that this is disputed, but right now it is in the control of China. And this is the disputed region POK. Your maps should be clear, should not have any sort of a confusion. Now we are talking about One China policy. So One China policy is pertaining to Taiwan. And then we have Hong Kong here. Okay, very near to South China Sea. So India shares the largest border with Bangladesh, and with China we share the second largest border with China. So China and Taiwan, they got separated amid the civil war in 1949. Actually, in 1911, there was a Zenai revolution which was going on, and at that time there was Dr. Sanyat Sen who wanted to bring democracy to China, and he established a party, Kuomintang Party, KMT. Today this Kuomintang Party is active in Taiwan. Okay, it is no longer active in the mainland China. We call this as the mainland China. So this is PRC, People's Republic of China, is the mainland China, and Taiwan is referred to as ROC, which is Republic of China. So basically there were two parties in China in the 1930s and 40s. There was Communist Party of China, and on the other hand there was Kuomintang Party. A civil war was going on. Kuomintang Party wanted to bring democracy to China, whereas with the support of Soviet Union, Communist Party of China under the leadership of Mao Zedong, they were able to win this civil war and establish their government. So Kuomintang Party, as a result of this, when they lost the war, they are going to relocate themselves, they are going to settle in Taiwan. So today Taiwan is democratic, but China, there is no democracy there. China, mainland China, is having a single party system. A single party system that is governed by Communist Party of China. In other words, we can say that it is nothing but the dictatorship of the Communist Party of China. That's what we can say about this. Okay, so let's start with China policy, One China policy. So One China policy is where China considers Taiwan part of its territory, that is to be taken control of by force if necessary. In future, if it wants, it is going to take that back or merge it within its own territory. But as of the leadership of Taiwan is concerned, if you ask them, they will say Taiwan is a sovereign state. Taiwan is a sovereign state. So China says that there is only one China and Taiwan is a part of it. Right now, it is working autonomously. It is having a democratic government. But in future, if they feel like, taking them back, they can take control of Taiwan by force. So after decades of hostile intentions, the relations between China and Taiwan started improving in the 1980s. So I'm talking about since 1949, the end of Civil War, till 1980s. There was hostility between both the sides, but the relation started improving in 1980s, where China at that time proposed a formula called as one country, two system, under which China proposed that Taiwan would be given significant autonomy if Taiwan accepted Chinese reunification. But Taiwan rejected this offer, although the government did relax rules on visits to and investment in China, but they rejected this offer. There were also limited talks between the two sides' unofficial representatives. They were insisting that Taiwan's Republic of China government is illegitimate, prevented government to government contact also. Now, China's implementation of national security law in Hong Kong in 2020, that was seen by many as yet another sign that China was becoming significantly more assertive in this region. So in that context, One China policy came into limelight. So One China policy was challenged. So what exactly does this mean? Actually, what happens is that countries that are seeking diplomatic relations with PRC, that is with Beijing as the capital, if you have your embassy in Beijing, then you cannot open your embassy in Taiwan. So that means countries that are seeking diplomatic relations with PRC, mainland China, must break official relations with ROC, Republic of China, Taiwan. Or if you are having your diplomatic relations with Taiwan, you must break your official relationship with PRC, that is mainland China. So the existing diplomatic relationship of the Taiwan and of its membership in intergovernmental organizations challenges this one China policy. The ROC, that is Taiwan, has diplomatic relations with 15 countries and substantive ties with many others like Australia, Canada, European Union nations, Japan, and New Zealand. Besides this, Taiwan has full membership in 38 intergovernmental organizations and subsidiary bodies, including World Trade Organization, Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, Asian Development Bank, and Central American Bank for Economic Integration. Taiwan has sought recently to improve its defenses with the purchase of US weapons, including upgraded F-16 fighter jets and armed drones, rocket systems, and Harpoon missiles. And in fact, a US aircraft carrier group led by the warship Theodore Roosevelt, it also entered the South China Sea to ensure freedom of the seas and building partnerships that foster maritime security. So this one China policy, it is nothing but a policy by China, specifically keeping in mind US. That US cannot interfere between Taiwan and mainland China. In fact, China has this policy that if US thinks about interfering in this matter, then China can launch a nuclear attack. China has a conditional no first use policy. As such, China has a no first use policy with respect to the nuclear weapons. But when it comes to the matter of Taiwan, if US is going to interfere, then China says that they will be the first to use nuclear weapon on US. This is what they have proclaimed. In fact, China came out with this one China policy with respect to US only. That if US is establishing diplomatic ties with them, with Beijing, then they are not supposed to do that with Taiwan. So the one China policy, that is in that context. Now what about India? What is India's stand on this issue? Since 1949, India has accepted the one China policy that accepts Taiwan and Tibet as a part of China. So officially for us, Taiwan is part of one China policy. However, India uses the policy to make a diplomatic point. That is, if India believes in one China policy, then China should also believe in one India policy. This is keeping in mind, in context of Jammu and Kashmir I'm talking about. That is the Pakistani occupied Kashmir, which is disputed. So even though for a very long time, India has stopped mentioning its adherence to one China policy in joint statements and official documents since 2010. Its engagement with Taiwan, it is still restricted due to the framework of ties with China. So at present, if we talk about India and Taiwan do not have formal diplomatic relations, but since 1995, both sides have maintained representative offices in each other's capitals that function as de facto embassies. Now that we have understood what is one China policy, let's talk about the Hong Kong crisis. Now, first of all, you need to know about Hong Kong. Hong Kong is significantly different from other Chinese cities. Hong Kong used to be a British colony for more than 150 years. Part of it, that is Hong Kong Island, was ceded to the UK after a war in 1842. But later, China leased the rest of the Hong Kong, the new territories, also to the British for 99 years. And that's when it became a busy trading port. Its economy took off in the 1950s as it became a manufacturing hub. Now, the territory was also popular with migrants and dissidents fleeing instability, poverty, and persecution in mainland China. So, in the early 1980s, as the deadline for the 99-year lease approached, this is, you know, when this approached, Britain and China, it began talks on the future of Hong Kong, with the communist government arguing that all of Hong Kong should be returned to Chinese rule. To Chinese rule. So this was 1892, not if, you know, actually after a war this happened, so for like 150 years it was a colony. So yeah, we can say that it is 42 only, but for 99 years it was given on lease, right? So the two sides signed a treaty in 1984 that would see Hong Kong return to China in 1997, and it will be returned under the principle of one country, two systems. But this meant that while becoming part of one country with China, Hong Kong will be able to enjoy a high degree of autonomy except in foreign and defense affairs at least for 50 years. So 50 years is the timeline which is supposed to be completed by 2047. By 2047. As a result of which, Hong Kong has its own legal system and borders today, and rights including freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, and freedom of press are also protected. So, Hong Kong is one of the few places in Chinese territory where people can commemorate the 1989 Tiananmen Square crackdown. Actually, this is where the military opened fire on unarmed protesters in Beijing that were demanding political freedom in China. So, how is Hong Kong ruled today? It is ruled under one country, two system approach. This is the same approach which was offered to Taiwan, but it was rejected by them. So, as per the policy, Hong Kong and Macau, these two are the places, the cities, that have special administrative region status. Both have been the former colonies of, Britain. So, as per the policy, Hong Kong and Macau can have different economic and political systems from that of mainland China, while being part of the People's Republic of China. So, Hong Kong returned to Chinese control on 1st of July 1997, and Macau sovereignty was transferred on 20th of December 1999. And under this system, these regions would have their own currencies, economic and legal system, but defense and diplomacy, it would be decided by Beijing. So, the mini constitutions of Hong Kong and Macau, it would remain valid for 50 years. That means for Hong Kong, it will be till 2047, and for Macau, it will be till 2049. Now, it is unclear what will happen after this term, but this was the step that was taken in 1997. But back in 2019, Hong Kong protests started against plans to allow extradition to mainland China. Actually, extradition bill was introduced in April 2019. And if this bill would have been passed, it would have allowed for criminal suspects to be extradited to mainland China, that they can be taken to mainland China under certain circumstances. Now, those who criticize this bill, extradition bill, they feared that this could undermine judicial independence and this could endanger dissidents. So later on, this bill was withdrawn in September 2019, but still demonstration continued and they started demanding full democracy and inquiry into police actions. The opponents, their fear was that opponents said that this bill risked exposing Hong Kongers to unfair trials. It can result in violent treatment. And they argued that this bill would give China greater influence over Hong Kong and it could be used to target activists and journalists. Hundreds of thousands of people, that's why, came on the streets after weeks of protest. The leader, Carrie Lam, eventually said that this bill would be suspended indefinitely. So Carrie Lam is actually a skilled bureaucrat. She was handpicked by Beijing to lead Hong Kong, and she has become one of the most divisive figures in the politically turbulent city. The chief executive sparked months of protest in 2019 after proposing a law that would have allowed extraditions. She even warned protesters not to push Hong Kong into abysses. The city's first female leader she is, and she went on to back the controversial national security law imposed on Hong Kong by Beijing in June. And she gave this argument that it was necessary to protect the city against criminals. But many in the territory, they feared that this law could be used to target political opponents of the Chinese state. So I talked about 1989 Tiananmen Square crackdown. Let's look into this more. In 1989, in China, in Beijing's Tiananmen Square became the focus for large-scale protest which was crushed by China's communist rulers. This event produced one of the most iconic photos of the 20th century. There was a man, a lone protester, standing in front of line of army tanks. Let me show you the picture. This is the man we are talking about. This is a very famous picture, the tank man. He is referred to as a tank man. This is the famous picture of Tiananmen Square. The events remain a highly sensitive topic in China, and one of the few remaining public memorials in Hong Kong has now been removed. So what exactly led up to the events? In 1980s, China was going through huge changes, and the ruling Communist Party began to allow some private companies and foreign investment. And with economic freedom, people will get a taste of that and they started demanding. The idea was that they will start demanding political freedom, and that's what happened. So at that time, leader Deng Xiaoping hoped to boost the economy and raise living standards of China. However, this move brought with it corruption, while at the same time it raised hopes for greater political openness. So corruption was high, so people started demanding that, political participation and all to get rid of this corrupt, officials and everything. So that's how they started demanding political freedom. So Communist Party at that time was divided on how to handle this issue. There were people, those who were urging for more rapid change. Then there were hardliners, those who wanted to maintain strict state control. So in the mid-1980s, student-led protests started, and those taking part included people who had lived abroad and been exposed to new ideas and higher standards of living. So how did this protest grow? In spring 1989, the protests grew with demands for greater political freedom. Actually, there was a leading politician, Hu Yabeng, and he, died, and protesters were spurred on by the death of this leader, who had overseen some of the economic and political changes. He had been pushed out of top position in the party by political opponents 2 years earlier. So when he died, Tens of thousands of people gathered on the day of his funeral in April, called for greater freedom of speech and less censorship in China. And in the following weeks, protesters gathered in Tiananmen Square with numbers estimated to be up to 1 million at their largest. And this square is one of Beijing's most famous landmarks. So, what was the response of the government? At first, the government took no direct action. Party officials disagreed on how to respond to this situation. But at the end, the hardliners, they are going to win this debate. And in the last 2 weeks of May, martial law was declared in Beijing. So on 3rd to 4th of June, troops began to move towards Tiananmen Square, opening fire and crushing and arresting protesters to regain control of this area. And that's when on 5th of June, this person, Tank Man, he faced down a line of tanks heading away from the square. He was carrying 2 shopping bags and he was filmed walking to block the tanks from moving past. And he was pulled away by 2 men. Now, it's not known what happened to him, but he's become the defining image of the protest. Now, the question is, are people of China aware of this event? The answer is no. No one knows for sure how many people were killed at that time. China controls everything what is put out on the internet about this event. In fact, at the end of 1989, June 1989, the Chinese government said that 200 civilians and several dozen security personnel had died, when the real estimates ranged from 100 to many thousands. In fact, in 2017, there was a UK document that was revealed that a diplomatic cable from the then British ambassador to China, Sir Alan Donald, he had said that 10,000 had died in these protests. So, do people in China know what happened? Discussion of this event that took place in this square is highly sensitive. Any post relating to this massacre, they are regularly removed from the internet. They are tightly controlled by the government. So for a younger generation who didn't live through the protest, there is little awareness about what happened. So this is it for this particular session. Today we try to understand what is One China policy and what is Hong Kong crisis. Now in the coming sessions, I'll be taking up Tibet as a topic, like should India play a Tibet card? So, these topics are not only important for general studies but are also important if you think about political science and international relation optional. Along with whatever I'm discussing here, if you add up expert commentaries, then that is going to boost your score. So, political science and international relation full-fledged course is available on the platform. You just use my code, enroll into it, and you can finish your entire syllabus, paper 1 and paper 2, everything I am teaching on the platform for this optional. This is it for this session. Thank you very much. Bye bye. Have a great day.